Hello, welcome to my little attic studio. Come inside, I'm so glad you're here. So welcome to my attic studio. This is a very special place for me, and it's a space that used to just be a regular storage space. So it used to just be rough walls, and there were shelves behind me all on the windows that just house things like Christmas decorations and things that we all hide away that we only use every now and then. So one day, my husband and I were up in the attic, and I thought, oh my goodness, this is a perfect space for fabric and all the things that I've collected. I do have a downstairs studio, and that's the one I started with, and I do love that studio as well, but it has a lot of different things in it and not so much fabric, just a little bit of fabric because we have a dog. Well, we had a dog. I no longer have Augie, but we had a dog and we have cats. So I wanted a place where I could store fabric and little pretty things that I wanted to keep away from the pets because I use them for my Etsy shop. So I asked my husband if we could remodel this space and turn it into an attic studio, and he very kindly said yes. So we have turned this space into a fabric holding place, and you've all seen pictures of the shelves, I think, that store my fabric. And then this beautiful work table I use for making bundles and gathering things for journals. So this is a very special place for me. It now allows me to keep the fabric from collecting in my bedroom, which was a little, my husband always says that if we had no power and it was very cold in the house, we would never go cold because I have so much fabric. So, but I am very glad to have it out of there now, and most of it is contained in here. So I thought today I would give you a little bit of a tour. People have been asking to see this space, and so it is cleaned up enough that I would like to share it with you. It is not perfect, and it never will be, because I just don't keep things super tidy all the time, but I'm okay with that. And I want to share it with you, so come along and I'll show you. So I've been collecting fabric for many, many years. I've always been drawn to the colors and the textures and the patterns, and when I got into journaling, I really started collecting fabrics because I saw all kinds of new things that I could do with them. So when we built this or remodeled this attic and turned it into a studio, the most important thing for me was having adequate space to store the fabric that used to reside on the other side of this wall in my bedroom. And that can be a bit of a problem sometimes. So now I have these shelves. And so we built these shelves to just be functional and plain, painted them white, of course, just to brighten up the space because there is not a lot of natural light in here. But this side of the attic shelves contains a lot of pillows. Those are pillows that I use in my house. I use them in the attic. I use them in the studio and in my bedroom and the family room. I use them everywhere. And then I also use this side to hold lots of soft muted fabrics, or I guess some pastel, but then some a little more natural. So this wall to me is the soothing kind of soft muted colors, lots of old ticking, lots of quilts. Some of them are super shabby, lots of bedding and florals and just vintage fabrics that I've found over the years. And when I was dividing up my space, I really felt like it looked best if I kind of kept this side a little more muted. So I have a trunk down below, and in that trunk are some old quilts and things I probably need to go through. Then I have baskets of little offcuts of quilts and quilt snippets and scraps and ones that are really shabby and worn. And then I have just some pretty things on the shelves as well. I like to keep some hat boxes and some jars of buttons. I also have a wooden box down below that has some old wallpapers in it and some rolls of fabric. So this side just, it changes here and there. It does, I mean, I pull from it, but I need to pull faster from it because there is a lot of fabric here, a lot for me to get through, but it's so much fun. Let's go over here. Come with me and I'll show you the rest of the fabric, the brighter colors. So on the other side of the door, it's kind of split down the middle. This side is a little smaller, I think, but you can see a lot more color over here. I do love color. I just tend to go a little more muted, and then I love pops of color. So on this wall, I gathered all the fabrics or most of the fabrics that I have that have more depth of color in them. Lots of quilts, lots of vintage fabrics, lots of old stripes and florals, and these shelves hold it all perfectly. And then underneath I have some baskets with just little bits and pieces, projects to happen, or certain color collections. Then I have baskets, lots, well, let's see, 1, 2, I think 3 baskets over there of vintage white and cream linen. So those are things that I've collected on my travels, on my outings, and the baskets just seem to be the best place to store them right now. So I'll take those out and sort through them and make them into bundles or use them in my journals and collage projects. So this side of the room and this side of the shelves, it's kind of a happy place. And I look over here, I get inspired by the colors, and I look to the other side of the room and I feel peaceful because of the softer colors. So this is one end of my studio, and my studio, because it is in the attic, does have slanted walls. So at each end, I can't use all of the upper space, but that's okay. So instead, I have at this end, I have a couple chairs, and I just recently got this chair from a thrift store. I paid $6.99 for it. So I do want to sand. I started kind of sanding down the dark wood to get it a little lighter, but I just kind of like the pattern, and then I put some pillows in it. And so for now, I have 2 chairs in my studio in case I want to take a break. And this little shelf back here behind this chair, I just got from a favorite little store of mine that is no longer there, but I loved the pink color of it. And I decided to put it back here and tuck it up against, we actually have doors back behind there, and those doors, all the storage that was in here before, we saved some storage behind those, so for Christmas decorations and things like that. But this pink shelf was perfect because I needed a place to store bundles of fabric that were already kind of gathered in my mind as ideas, and they were taking up my table space. So I could not make any bundles because I had no space. So down on this shelf, I have bundles that I've gathered and I've already coordinated. So I just need to pull them off, and then I can put them on my table and make a bundle from them. So this shelf was perfect. And then I have a basket of scraps and a basket of old laces on the top of that. So I'll show you my little dresser. So this little dresser I got for, I think, $10 at a flea market. And this is the one that I had in my Instagram stories asking what to do about the bottom, because the bottom shelf is totally missing. So I don't think it's repairable. We looked at it, but it was quite a mess. So I am going to put a shelf there, I think, in the near future, hopefully, to give me some extra storage. But I just love the chippy look of it. On top, I have some boxes full of ephemera and old papers and things like that. And then in the drawers, I just have collections of buttons and trims that I use in my bundles. So that holds a lot of storage. I haven't put a lot in the other drawer yet, so I won't be opening that one right now, but that is that little dresser, and I just love the way it looks in here. I love this little corner of my studio behind the chair. I have a dresser, just a chippy old dresser that I found at a yard sale, and in that dresser I keep some quilt bundles and fabric bundles that are sold and ready to head out in the mail. And on top of that, I have a mood board. It's perfect over there because with the slanted ceilings, I can't put a lot of tall furniture over here. So some inspiring things on that. I love the botanicals. There's an old ledger page with our last name Freeman on the top of that, so that's pretty special. And then I just have some old fabrics, some buttons, and some little trims and notions. This little white cupboard or cabinet was down in my living room for a long time. I got it at a yard sale as well and painted it, but I brought it up here in my attic studio because it also holds more fabric and has some jars of old lace and lots of little jars of old buttons. So it was the perfect storage piece for me to keep up in here. And in this drawer here, I have collected all the little tins that I use in my Etsy shop. And those are the ones that I stuff and fill. So my favorite thing in my studio is this big work table. And this I found at an antique mall, and I kept it for probably a good year or more until we actually remodeled this space. I didn't know where it was going to go, but I knew I had to use it somewhere. So I love the chippy look of it. I painted or stained it, or I sealed it. I didn't stain it, but I sanded it down a bit and sealed it so that it would be nice and smooth. And this is where I cut fabric and make bundles and fill the tins. So this is one of my favorite things. And underneath this table, I've added all kinds of storage. So it has cabinets underneath it and shelves and bins, and I'll give you a look at those. This table in front of the window is where I take a lot of my pictures for my Etsy shop. So I only have one window in this studio, and I have to take pictures at certain times so I get enough light. So this is the little spot where I do that, and then I have some pretty things collected on there as well. And then this old table I found at an antique mall, and for me it's just inspirational. I love the old door. These are things that I've had for a long, long time, except the table, but everything else I've had for a long time. And I love the botanicals and just the florals. It's just things that inspire me. And then I have a little white shelf that I think was in my daughter's room, and I moved it in here. She didn't want it any longer, so that fits perfectly beside the other shelf. The shelf in the corner with all the quilts on it came with us. We've had that for decades. It came here from Virginia, so that's a perfect space to store some more quilts. And then I have this little wire shelf and a stool, actually a couple stools. I love stools for some reason. They're kind of one of my things, but this little wire shelf I got from the same store that was closing, and I love it. Right now it's just holding some offcuts from bundles that I've made and little bits of fabric that I haven't decided what I'm going to do with yet. So this is the other end of my studio, the other corner, and I just have a love seat down there. Sometimes I like to come in here, especially when it's raining, and just sit down and relax and read a book or dream about things I want to make and just look at the fabric and get inspired to make bundles and things like that. So that completes the tour of my little attic studio. Thank you so much for coming by and spending this time with me. I really loved sharing it with you and showing you where I do all the fabric things that I do and create the journals that I make. And I hope to see you again soon.